A young group of technologists upset a global giant's, a Facebook's, plan to take over internet with an excuse of providing internet to rural areas. They started a grassroots movement against the proposal. They further put forward an alternative democratic plan of providing internet and digital services to rural areas through Freedom Box at a very low cost. They went on to take up villages and implementing their idea in a true collective model. In doing this, they are inspiring a generation towards digital literacy and digital equality. It was not the first time for Facebook to bring up an idea, a monopolistic idea like free basics into this world. Initially, this idea was nothing but they brought this idea into India not once, times citizens here, those who are aware of the importance and the politics why internet.org is not good for India and how it abuses net neutrality, standing to their point on the importance of net neutrality, the Facebook's interest.org. Their persuasion on the people of India when the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, went to California to meet Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook. Zuckerberg showed surprisingly lots of love towards the Digital India project. Has introduced a new feature to the display images of the users, that is, the Facebook users. The user who has a profile pic can change his display profile pic in support of the Digital India project. Could clearly observe and see that what Facebook was trying to do in the name of giving support to Digital India, they were garnering support to internet.org. A class that was mentioned in the code of the internet.org web page that any display image change in support of Digital India is giving a like or support to the internet.org project. This was clearly a shameless backdoor garnering of support to a failed project, a failed monopolistic project called internet.org. It is after this that when all the people were busy making their plans for the new year, the last week of December, with huge sum of money put into marketing, that Facebook has come up with this idea called the free basics. Free basics is nothing but internet.org with a new name. The rest all is the same. December 24th, as and when we see people going to their offices or opening the newspapers in the morning, there were huge ads on the hoardings, the front pages of the newspapers, appealing people to support digital equality. And which is the organization striving for this so called digital equality? We see it is the Facebook in the name of free basics. To any person who logs in into his Facebook account, a notification asking for digital equality appears. Interestingly, there is only an option yes, and any person who logs in has no other option other than clicking on yes. Apart from this kind of a unilateral model of garnering support, Facebook has also asked people to give missed call to a toll-free number, and that particular missed call will count as an S. So what is Facebook garnering all this support? They were directing all these support in the name of likes, the missed call, as a signature to their model, support to their model in response to the consultation paper released by Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. But the netizens, the young ones, could see where all this was going. They took to streets, started a struggle camp, went to colleges, went to villages, went to many apartments. They gathered people, educated people, informed people, and brought an awakening. An awakening against a monopolistic idea coming in the mask of digital equality. They have won the struggle against Facebook. They won with a grassroots movement, by building a grassroots movement. They won by educating people about why free basics is dangerous. They made people realize. They went to media, discussed with media. They went to many people with this idea of why net neutrality is important for us and how Facebook is cheating people in the name of digital equality. Before they won, Facebook has gone into a duel of dialogues with all the supporters of net neutrality. There were many cheap tactics that Facebook has come up with. But what the people, especially the net neutrality supporters led by the Switcha leadership, they did not just speak against what Facebook was doing. They also had an alternative plan, an alternative idea of how digital equality can be achieved. They have proposed the model of putting up Wi-Fi towers in a village, and these towers connected to a freedom box to internet can give internet to the complete village. Not only internet, but also many other digital services like VoIP calls, a community radio, a video streaming channel, a digital library, and many such important and necessary digital services can be provided to the people. This proposal picked up among the youth, and they believed an alternative is possible. With this belief that an alternative is possible, they started their struggle, not only by appearing on streets, but taking up the task of building an alternative network. The Digital India project, started by the Government of India in the name of taking the digital technologies to the people, it has been continuously patronizing the big monopoly corporations like Facebook, Reliance, Tata, and others. Digital India was thought to be a project that would spearhead the change that we, the technocrats, envision. Instead, Digital India has become a vehicle for larger, greater monopolization. For instance, take the example of Reliance Jio. Reliance Jio is a project started by the Reliance Corporation headed by Mukesh Ambani, was giving telecom services to many of its customers free of cost for almost an year. All this time, the people used the service and they had to pay. But now, starting April, people will have to pay an amount of rupees 99 to become a premium member of the Geo network, and from there on take the services at a cost of rupees 300 every month. Though this particular amount still looks less when compared with other telecom service providers, this only seems to be a predatory mechanism of Reliance to hunt down its competition, which it sees in its other telecom service providers. One side, it has imported most of its SIM cards from China. Hasn't really respected the Make in India project of the government of all the production of SIM cards, all the production of point of sale machines, everything when happens in India, it would have created many more jobs. They didn't do that. They imported all these material. That being the case with Geo, the other bigger thing is the case of the Aadhaar card. Aadhaar card, though looks to be a vehicle for the social programs to reach the common man, it is only a tool or a vehicle for intruding into the privacy of an individual, of a citizen. If privacy is one aspect, the other important aspect is that the individual profiling of every citizen becomes much more easier, and hence hitting on the chance of getting a bigger credit. Combining the case of Geo, the Aadhaar card, and a model like Free Basics into the country will create a huge, extraordinarily huge surveillance state which would only see citizens as objects of consumption but not people who can produce and contribute to the future. Needs to be replaced by a more democratic platform, a more democratic vision of the future. This more democratic vision of the future, the Swecha has started the project of Freedom Box. Gangadevapalli was taken up, and recently on February 18th, it has grandly launched the digital services in this village. Gangadevapalli for many decades have been a very hugely named village. The first time that the leadership of Swecha came to know about Gangadevipalli is through some news in social media. The news about this village is about the cooperative model that they took to put dish antenna in their village and have access to cable TV network. It was in 1997 that the village panchayat of Gangadevipalli came up with the idea of having cooperative model of the cable TV network in their village. This made the village to be the right choice for this cooperative model experiment for the digital infrastructure to be installed. There are many points on which the Swecha team had to finalize on. It had to finalize on antenna, it has to finalize on the financial model, it had to finalize on many more things. Of course, we were able to search a right village. There also needs to have a huge groundwork for the initial community management that needs to be done. The leadership team got the opportunity to learn firsthand from the villagers about the different projects that the village has taken up and has been implementing for several years. In continuation to the discussion with them, the FBX project and its capacity was explained to the leadership team inside the village. The leadership team got convinced and they got the grip of what the project is about. Swecha team was given the opportunity to take up this project in the village Gangadevipalli by the panchayat and the leadership of the village. During these meetings, the general concern expressed by the village leadership was about the cost. We explained them about the community contributions Swecha was planning from the non-resident Indians or the NRIs. Information about NRI contribution to the cause further motivated them. And the NRIs have collected the necessary funds for this installation and helped Swecha in finishing this project. Not only the NRIs, there were many telecommunication companies like Stel and infrastructure companies like VRS Industries who helped in finalizing the antennae and also the structural manufacturing of the towers. The towers installation as such was a very huge job. It was a Spartan effort. All the volunteers involved in this installation were very naive to this kind of activity. They had absolutely no idea and had never done any such installation. The only source of knowledge was the design and plan given by VRS Industries. The material required made at VRS Industries was taken from Hyderabad to Gangadevipalli. In the first iteration, 2 installations were done. One installation on Panchayati office, the other one near the water tank. The installation near the water tank had to be done twice since the initial installation was too close to the electric power lines. In the second iteration, the installations done in the first iterations were removed. This time, there were 2 types of installations, on the ground and rooftop installations. The first 3 towers were on the ground and the other 2 were on the rooftop installations. On the ground for the foundation structure to go into the ground. We need to dig 3 more holes around the center foundation hole such a way that the center foundation hole comes within the area formed by the 3 outer 3 holes. These 3 holes are for the guy wire hooks. The pole on which the antenna stand needs to be placed on the foundation structure. The antenna stand needs to be inserted in the pole from above. Later, the guy wires should be connected to the 3 hooks on the ground. This way, we have installed the other 2 towers as well. For the third tower, The place had to be shifted from an initial place was closer to the power lines again. All the holes were dug by the volunteers. Many of the volunteers had no experience of this work earlier. In spite of being first timers, they pulled off a decent job. Meanwhile, another team started to work on connecting all the towers with Cat 6. This work involved climbing poles with the help of ladder and laying lines on the poles. Also, the same team took the task of connecting power lines to each tower. Rooftop installations. There are two such installations, one on the top of Panchayati office, another on the top of a house. The major differentiation between on the ground and rooftop installation is that there is no enough space for assembling and no place where you can dig a hole to put the foundation structure on the rooftop. Hence, you'll have to manage the space properly. Experience on mixing the cement and laying it up. So the volunteers took up the task. Again, brought the support material, bought mixing material, not just for Tower 4, but also for Tower 5. Later, lifting the pole on the limited space available on the rooftop was a Herculean task. The total tower weighed so much that it was getting difficult for 10 people to vertically hold the tower and place it on the foundation structure. But Spartan efforts of volunteers and the will to see the task finished helped us pull off the task and finish the tower's erection on Panchayati office and another house. The spirit is not only seen in installing towers, but also seen in general culture that the volunteers got themselves accustomed to. The general working timings we would plan is to have one round of outdoor work between 6 to 11 in the morning and later again between 4 to 8. These timings were put to escape scorching heat of the sun. But things never went as planned. The work used to start at 6. Volunteers used to directly get into the work immediately as and when they get up, and without any break in the noontime. As per the initial plan, it would continue to late in the night. And in the night, the volunteers retired to a floor space we get in the training center to sleep. Inspiring is a very small word to explain the Spartan efforts of the volunteers. With such continued efforts, the first village with digital services from Swecha, a model of democracy in digital age for the future, was ready. As told earlier, the services were launched on February 18th. And today, the people of Gangadevipalli access internet, have VoIP calls to one another free of cost without depending on any telecom service provider. They have their own digital library. They have a community radio. In future, they're even going to have a video streaming channel on their mobile. There can be many more services that can be delivered to the people using the digital infrastructure that is put up at Gangadevipalli. The possibility of telemedicine is also being explored. It is this change that the real digital India needs. Hence, the digital India that is initially proposed needs to be re-engineered into a more democratic platform and giving a more democratic space for participation and net neutrality for the future. In building this infrastructure, we are shaping the future. We are giving the complete ownership to the people. It is these platforms that will help and hold the world safe in the hands of the people. Because the infrastructure for the future is of the people, by the people, and for the people.